Yesterday was Windows Phone Day in San Francisco. How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and I have been working with the HTC Windows Phone 8X for a couple of days, actually since last week when HTC sent it over. But yesterday at the event, we got the AT&T branded version, which brings LTE to the device itself. It's time for a full review, and it starts right now. HTC is at it again with Windows Phone, at least with Windows Phone 8. This is the HTC Windows Phone 8X. That's the full name, HTC Windows Phone 8X. I know it's a mouthful, but it's a new Windows Phone coming from HTC with a beautiful design here, beautiful tapered design around the edges, different colors as well, coming to AT&T and a wealth of other carriers both in the US and internationally. Verizon's another one, T-Mobile is yet another one, and it's packing some pretty decent specs. So we're finally seeing decent specs on Windows Phone 8. A 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU here, a 4.3-inch HD LCD display, 720p on the display, an 8-megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, and then a 1,800 milliamp hour battery. Now the AT&T version is packing 4G LTE connectivity, and it's got a front-facing camera as well. So obviously beautiful hardware here, and that's something that Microsoft is quick to point out with Windows Phone. They think they've got the most beautiful hardware on the market between this, the Lumia 920, the Lumia 820, all the variants of the Lumia, and of course the 8X, the 8S, and the Samsung Ativ S. Quite a few different, that's all S's first of all, but also some beautiful hardware that suits to different tastes depending on your color preferences, depending on your style preferences, and more. But Windows Phone 8 has obviously undergone a dramatic overhaul here, as you can see. It's still kind of got that Metro UI look and feel in terms of the subway tiles, but they're customizable now. So take a look at my lock screen, for example. You can see the custom HTC widget here, which we'll cover in just a second, but you're also seeing some size differences as well. You've got some size differences here in terms of the little, I said widgets, I mean live tiles, I apologize. Live tiles here, you'll see, for example, the rectangular one, and if you remember back to my Windows Phone 7 and 7.5 reviews, I've often criticized Microsoft for not being able to customize the tiles. You know, you get this device, and let's say, for example, Calendar on Windows Phone 7.5. Calendar was pretty large. It was about that big. And of course, you could see the previews, but you couldn't make it any smaller. You couldn't change it around. And I saw, you know, a case where you could have something like this or something like messaging be a rectangular tile as well, and you could have previews. So now that's the case. So you can go into messaging, for example, and then I can enlarge that one and have it just like that, and back out, and now when a message comes in, I'll get a preview, and it'll show me what the number is, or who it's coming from, rather, and then of course a preview of the text messaging. So a lot of different customizations here that you didn't see in previous versions of Windows. But let's just talk briefly here out of the gate. You do get some AT&T stuff on obviously the AT&T version. You'll see LTE connectivity running up here. AT&T code scanner, Family Map, Navigator, Radio, UVerse Live TV, and then down here I've got my AT&T, and then YP Mobile as well. Now quite a bit of this stuff should be able, I can uninstall YP Mobile, for example, so I want to get rid of that. I can get rid of that. I should be able to get rid of most of the AT&T stuff as well. AT&T Radio, AT&T Navigator. If you don't want that, you can uninstall it from the device. But otherwise, a couple of things that I've installed, obviously, my testing with the device, Foursquare, and then I have Twitter, Tweetcaster, and more. Now that said, I did the earlier review yesterday. I had gotten an NDA device on Friday, and so I couldn't post anything until Monday. So I've been working with it over the weekend, but I didn't get quite enough time to feel really comfortable posting a full review. So now this is the full review. This is actually the AT&T version as well, like I said, so you're seeing the LTE capabilities on this device. So theme a little bit different here, and just talking about some of the personalization choices on this device. First of all, you'll notice a ton of new colors, or what they're calling accents now, on this device. I can come over here and change it, for example, to red. I can change it to indigo or cobalt. I can change it over here to steel, as you see. And when I back out, you can see the tiles modify to reflect those colors, obviously, but you do get a lot more color choices. Gone are the days where you get like 7 or 8 different colors, and that's it. You get a bunch of different color choices here, along with the different live tile sizes. But I'm going to bring this messaging one back to a smaller size, and I'm going to bring it right back here. So a lot of different choices there, and also you'll see that there's a little bit more space around on the screen as well, a little bit less black space around on the individual icons, and that the arrow button's been moved down here to the very bottom, so you're not dealing with that up the top. People, I'm assuming they know by now, people are probably going to swipe back and forth if they know Windows Phone at all. And then of course, if you don't know that, you can go down here, just like on Windows Phone 7, they just moved it from the top to the bottom. But some color choices as well. This is also one of my favorites. You'll see more of this as more applications integrate with Windows Phone 8, but one of my favorites. Let's go into the lock screen here and take a look. So background, for example, what you're used to seeing on Windows Phone is a photo. So you can see, photo, and I can select my photo if I want to. I've got a couple of different choices here. I can go into backgrounds and take a look at a photo, and I can do, let's say, Surfer Dude here. I can click OK, and then when I turn it off and back on, my Surfer Dude photo is right there. And so I can go back and forth between that. Now what I like though is there's an ability to change that even more. Applications will support this in the future, like Groupon, as you saw in the Microsoft presentation if you were watching. But right out of the gate, you get, forgive me, let me go back to this photo, Bing or HTC support. So I can click on HTC, for example, and then when I go back out, I turn it off and back on. It should, and it may take a little bit of time to update, but what it should do is show me that HTC screen, kind of a Sense-looking screen with weather and more. So similar to what we're seeing right here on the HTC Hub widget with weather and Dallas and a bunch of different pre-selected areas, stocks, news, and more. So let me go back out and see if that took just then. Bam, there we go. So you can see HTC lock screen. Not sure why it's been doing that since I've been working with the device. So I don't know if that's a fluke or if that's just something in the system, but you can see here's HTC standard lock screen with the weather in the background. Obviously, if it were raining or snowing or sleeting or whatever the case may be, foggy, you would see right here that it would reflect that, of course, the highs and the lows and where you're located along with the time. So you've got that out of the gate. So you can change that around again. Groupon and a couple of other applications. Facebook, when they redo the application, will support this. So you can have Facebook as your lock screen, for example, and see a bunch of different pictures on a regular basis. So they're really working on this customization element. It's something that quite a few people, myself included, have criticized them for because, hey, you know, even on the iOS scale, and even more so on the Android scale, customization isn't quite where it needs to be up until Windows Phone 8. Another thing you can do is you can choose an app to show detailed status. So for example, messaging, and you'll see a couple of different ones here, calendar, messaging, Outlook, phone, and then Phone Dog, so I can show previews at the bottom. So for example, let's say, you know what, I want my Phone Dog email to show as the preview. So I can click on Phone Dog, and when I get an email, turn it off and back on. Obviously I don't have one right now, but when I do, you'll see the preview pop up right here along with the typical stuff you're used to on Windows Phone 8. The shortcuts like messaging, various email accounts, and more. And you can customize that. If you want text messaging to be your preview, you want to see more of it's all about what you want to see more of. If you want to see more of your text messages before you go out of the lock screen, you can customize that. And of course, you can choose apps to show quick status as well. So take a look, for example, I can change this one to phone, and you'll see that one's moving away. So I've got 2 Outlook accounts here. I've got messaging, and I can change this one to games, for example. And those are the 5 things that will show as a quick status at the bottom on the lock screen on Windows Phone 8. So of course, screen times out, all that stuff you're used to. But these little customization choices are really what's going to make or break Windows Phone 8. So it's nice to see them moving over into some choice when it comes to customization and changes there. So of course, ringtones and sounds, kind of similar here. No real changes to the overall look and feel when it comes to ringtones and sound. But I'm going to bring you into the messaging interface here, and we'll take a look at just a sample here. 4.3-inch LCD display, typical Windows Phone keyboard here. Portrait to landscape is exactly as fluid and responsive as you remember it to be. Portrait to landscape transitions are nice and fast. And of course, Windows Phone has a pretty decent auto correction system as well. So Quick Brown Fox is ready for a root beer. I hate root beer. I'm not sure when the Quick Brown Fox likes it, but apparently he does. Quick Brown Fox is ready for root beer. Now, you can do like I've shown you in some of the Windows Phone 7 and 7.5 review videos. You can easily click on a word and change it without having to do too much. So the Quack Crown Fox is ready for a toot beer, as you can see right here. And of course, like I said, responsiveness, very smooth, little to no lag here. And of course, I can go into the Internet Explorer area as well and take a look at phonedog.com. phonedog.com. It's nice to have the .com shortcut button as opposed to the .co.uk shortcut button for the unlocked British version. But pinch to zoom, relatively responsive here. No lag whatsoever, and again, transitions are nice and fast. And you're seeing a very similar interface here with the ability to do tabs, recent favorites, and more. Go into a new tab, for example, and no real interface changes here, like I said, but I can go back and forth between my tabs and easily access Phone Dog and more. So Bing has had some improvements as well. We'll talk about that in part 2, but again, I want to show you this. This is a frustration that I had in Windows Phone 7 and 7.5. It's still present here. Unfortunately, they're going for the minimalistic approach with the signal strength indicator and the battery life indicator. So 2 issues. One, I can't see a physical percentage. So I don't know what exactly the battery's at without going into settings, without schlepping down here to battery saver and seeing 85% battery left, or just seeing it right there in the settings. So still, I'd love to see a physical battery percentage up there where I could turn that on. And I'd love to have the ability to keep this at the top of the display. As it is right now, or as it stands, you can still do it from the AT&T, or of course from the phone application, I should say, and you'll see AT&T network ID, and you'll see the signal strength, but you'll notice even the LTE indicator, in this case the Wi-Fi indicator, and then the battery life meter will go away as well. Otherwise, user interface looks relatively similar here with the shortcuts down at the bottom. All you have to do is click the 3 dots to access the text below to see that it means voicemail, keypad, people, or search in this instance, and then you have some additional settings down there at the bottom. But overall, build quality, really impressed on this device with the way it looks. It's probably, it's too early to say, but it's one of my favorite Windows Phone devices just because of the way it fits in the hand. 4.3 inches, a nice sweet spot for a lot of people that find the Galaxy S3 or the Note 2 or the One X or any of these other devices that are out on the market that are over 4.5 inches on the display territory side. You may like this device a lot, if anything, just for the fact that it has a 4.3-inch display that's HD and is also pretty small and pocketable. 1,800 milliamp hour battery. Again, keep in mind Windows Phone, in terms of battery drain, it usually does a good job, but you're packing LTE and you're packing a dual-core processor into a device with a 1,800 milliamp hour battery. It'll be interesting to see over long term how the battery life performs. I can give you battery results from the HSPA Plus version. Honestly, I've only worked with this one for about 24 hours, so I can't give you a real indicative battery life performance idea here with LTE. That said, it's been relatively impressive. I pulled this off the charger at 12:38 p.m. out of the office, charged it up to full, and it's sitting at 85% at 3:09 with pretty heavy use, or at least what I would consider to be relatively heavy use. So not bad at all. We'll take a look and continue to monitor that. What I will say is on the HSPA Plus version, I was getting about 14 to 16 hours with moderate use. So that includes text messaging, email, calling, things like that. But again, the data is much slower and not as power hungry as LTE. Out of the gate here, you'll see a volume rocker on the right side, your micro SIM card slot over there, and then over on this side, nothing, very smooth. 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, power button up top, and then you've got your micro USB charging port at the bottom, along with 3 capacitive buttons back, home, and search to bring up Bing. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com and stay tuned for part 2 of this review. We'll go over some speed tests and some more features of Windows Phone 8.